None of anything that he has done has been at random.
He's just too calculated.
Every single move he has made sense for the plan, and it has all been in a row. And he ain't missed a beat.
And you can't speed him up or slow him down either.
The only thing we know about anything is the only person leaving the castle is Loki, and our other legend has a sword through his face. And the only people here is sword through face man, Ja Rule, and Loki.
Luffy's not letting nothing go. I don't care what nobody says.
No, they homies,
Luffy's
bro.
not
No, for
letting
sure.
That's game.
Did y'all hear about like theories that people were talking about saying the Shanks and Shamrock switch places?
Bro, I hate unintelligent brain rot.
I'm not going for that.
on
I'm
the
not going
internet.
for that.
The way fate has been working in One Piece, you don't get to do certain stuff to certain people. Something will always get in your way. Some way, shape, form. There will be some form of miracle that just happens.
Can I ask y'all a
Well, we'll
question?
see.
Now, do you think that we get to learn in this arc exactly what Domi Reversi?
I would hope so.
I'm really.
Welcome to another episode of Ship Talk, our One Piece talk show where we dive into everything happening in the world of One Piece. This is Sauce, Scotto, I'm Jay, and as always, thank you for being a part of the crew. So, quick recap. This week continues on with the events that happened 15 years ago. Elbaf is getting notoriety around the world from being a part of the Navy and involved in world trades and things like that. Citizens around the world are becoming more familiar with the giants and less afraid of them. Citizens of Elbaf are excited. Everything seems as though it's on the up and up, and they get into another flashback of the final conversation between Harald and Ida, and then it jumps to 14 years ago. Shanks goes missing. Then Harald takes his place as a full-fledged knight. He meets Emu, becomes immortal. Emu tells him to create an abyss on Elbaf to create a bond, and afterward promises to integrate Elbaf into the world government. Harald listens, follows these orders, and then Emu flips the script. Tells Harald to use the entire country to build an army of warriors. Harald pushes back, and then things kind of go left from there. This leads into the moment of the massacre inside the castle, all right? And then it takes us back to the regular timeline. So it's not really a lot of excitement in this week, but definitely some really important details being shown. And it kind of makes you wonder, like, if we're supposed to just imagine what actually happened in the castle from the little that they explained in the end of the chapter, or will we kind of like get to see the actual battle, like actually get to see it?
So I think that we are going to eventually see it, but I think because of the way that the chapter kind of fills in the blanks for a lot of what's going on present day in Elbaf's situation, like it goes back to where we are today, but then Loki still has to finish up telling Hadruden how, if he killed it, like if they killed King Harald, how that took place, or if he did kill King Harald, why they had to do it that way.
Yeah, I believe as well that today was kind of like the wrap up of the fluff behind the actual point of the flashback. I think that with them presenting his picture in present day is because now we're about to figure out what was really up with him that day. We already got the prelude. He's in there fighting back. You know, he's physically resisting Emu trying to take over. And that's why, you know, he's like you said, he caught his sons. But yeah, I think next week, cat's out the bag. 17 to 19 pages of just what happened to King Harald.
So you think it's going to continue on from next week?
Yeah, for sure.
From there next week? Because
for sure.
it actually took us back to present time.
Yeah, for
and was
sure.
showing them.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to like show us some what's going on in present time though first, and then go back. And why would it bring us back? You know what I'm saying? It literally said, and now back to the story. And it showed the mural of him, or the picture of him, portrait of him, like in present day.
So the start of the story, you feel me, from our POV was Loki, you know what I'm saying, beginning this flashback when his brother asked, what happened to our daddy? You have 3 minutes. So as I said, I mean, I just feel like he's just getting back to the point. Like this is the actual point of everything we just seen.
I mean, I hope so. I hope they don't just like leave it as like
I mean, you know what I'm saying? That's just how I see it. I feel like that's why he brought it back around. Okay, back to present day, back to what matters to us. You know, what are we actually here for? Because we wasn't here for God Valley. That was a bonus. We had no idea we was getting God Valley lore at the top of Harold's flashback. Not a single clue.
Yeah, and it's actually crazy that Harold really had all the citizens of Elbaf like united on this. Like, yeah, we get to be part of the world government. We get to experience like just meeting other people and getting more knowledge on the world in itself.
I'm not gonna lie. They didn't have no choice. Bro, you was gonna get down with his program, he was gonna beat you up. You weren't gonna stop him.
But like, think about
Real
how
talk.
emotionally vulnerable he was, though. He was really under the impression that what he was doing was for the greater good of his whole entire country. He's making sure they never have to go back to a barbaric way of living. And then Moo says, "Oh, that's exactly what you're about to do." If you didn't know, yeah, because you don't get to tell, you don't talk back to Moo. Moo don't do talk back, right? Right? That's what
No,
Moo
real
said.
talk though. Real talk. Cause bruh, Moo be talking crazy.
Mhm.
Like crazy. And I think that, as I said prior, was just all part of the big plan as far as Busama and his usage of Harold to, mark Elbaf. Like, we wondered previously in time, why was he able to Domi Reversi the whole island, every giant in Elbaf against their wills, just, you know, Domi Reversi. But we learned today, you're gonna go home and you're gonna create a link that bonds that to us. Yeah. Yeah, see, and once once I got that on the ground, ain't no more. And the only reason I believe that though is because in God Valley, when Saint Saturn put the symbol down, that's how he flipped all the Davies. Like once that mark's on the ground, I feel like that's the door. So whatever you can do with the abyss, I feel like you must have that pentagram placed on the floor. Or some type of, there has to be some sort of contract going on. You know what I'm saying? Because why would that be one of your stipulations? I already branded you. I made you the strongest giant alive, immortal, way more powerful than you've ever been. Why do I need for you to go home and put this mark on the ground? I could just use you and nobody's gonna stop me.
Plus, it touches on your what you said about him not being promoted, pretty much.
Yeah, that was all a lie.
But he actually got promoted. He
I
was like, he
mean,
never made it to the next level. He did. He made
no,
He
it to
did.
the
nah, he
Death's
did.
Covenant.
He did as far as the mark on his arm. But as we know, like I said, bruh, Elbaf never became.
But he still got promoted. And the reason why he didn't make it out of there is because he refused to just become
Yeah,
the
slave his
slave that
country.
he said he was gonna
Yeah.
be. And
And I said that too. He's lying. He's gonna act and do as he needs.
no, he wasn't lying.
I don't think he was
He was
lying.
going to be a slave as long as it was just him.
Right, exactly. That's what he did. He got more than he bargained for that. Because Moo said no one
That's
agreed on
fair.
that.
No, that's fair. That's fair. That's fair. But Moo hit him with the old genie okie doke. See, you didn't say all that extra stuff.
You said whatever it took.
You said you slave whatever take. That's what I heard. That's what we got.
That's what we doing. And like I said, thou shalt not talk back to Moo.
Yeah, the thou shalt stuff is crazy.
Like, bruh,
Like,
ancient.
Because, see, Enel thought he was God. He spoke normal. He just was zapping the crap out of you with 100 million votes. Thou shalt. He's speaking in pure commandments. Like,
He said, said history would be atoned for. Thou saidst thou wouldst be a slave.
bro told him, you think you can shoulder everybody's dirt? No, no,
He said, you
no.
don't know what y'all done to me.
And he said, history is not so light that it can be shouldered by thee alone. Do
Nope.
not speak back.
Yeah. And then Harold's flabbergasted because he can't talk. Because you can't disobey me. Not now. You in the death's covenant. You are directly connected to Big Moo.
The deepest contract, mind you.
No, he's in the middle one.
Yeah, he's in the middle.
Is
the,
he?
the deepest one
He
is
didn't
the
get to the
abyssal.
abyssal.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
you're
the
right.
abyssal is
You're
is
right.
the elders. And at that point, I don't even think.
Because, like, gang, we saw how fast he switched up a seating in the five elders.
It's crazy. It's crazy how much he's resisting it though, because, and also when they made him immortal, the five elders were scared. Kind of. Well, they weren't scared, but they were like,
No,
It's
they're
a- nah, he's a
worried.
weapon.
There's a worry now.
He
There's like
can't
it
be
chills
nothing
the
else.
spine. He's more than a monster at this point. He's a weapon. They're looking at him like, wow.
Because they're thinking to themselves, what if he is actually like loyal to Moo? I'm under the impression that
Mu-sama is just so powerful that those who have seen bend the knee because I don't want to die. And if you want me to use my prowess to stay alive, gotcha. But I don't think any of the five elders, maybe outside of Garland, are actually like for real. Because even Saint Saturn was, doing his own little side missions. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't think they're loyal out of like love to Mu. I think it's just purely out of power.
Yeah.
Outside of Garland, I think Garland actually genuinely he's a real lapdog for real. Like to the core. Like you because and I think that's why he got the reception from the elders that he got when he entered the throne room as the replacement for Saint Saturn. Because I was wondering like why wouldn't they, bring in a new brother, especially one that been around? No, because
The Neath me.
you going against the grain though.
Yeah. Know
Remember-
your place. Remember they
when he
said know your
came and
place.
told Moo about the Davies and all of that? And the elders wasn't happy about that. What are you doing? Like, you know what I'm saying? They've never really had like a camaraderie type relationship. So I don't think outside of Garland, any of them are like, the great Moo, whatever you say, you're the greatest. And they were scared that Harold might become one of them. We're cooked.
I don't remember them having a lot of pushback on Garland.
I'm only speaking about the demeaning of the facial, like when he walked in the room, you could see the looks on their faces. It wasn't a welcoming, yo, welcome to the party, bro. Like that's what I was saying. Like,
So the amount of times that they alluded to the Great One, Mu, to Harold, for him to see Mu sitting on the throne, why was he like? Why was he surprised? Who do you think? Who did y'all think? Who did he think that they were talking about?
nobody, because the entire history of the world, from their knowledge, the regular citizen, including Harold, that is called the empty throne. Because a
No,
hundred
I
million.
get that, but obviously he's already been in their circle. They've already been telling him like stuff that's going on, and that there's somebody who rules us.
Yeah, but he's thinking the same way he's the leader of Elbaf. This is the leader of Marie Joie. You see what I'm saying? The whole thing is made up of kings. We're all the same level. You're just that somewhere else. He was probably assuming the great one is the leader of the Holy Land because every piece of land has a leader. He didn't think that the great one was supposedly the leader of us all. And that's why it took him by surprise that he's sitting on that throne, because it would only make sense for Maurice Raw to have some sort of a captain, a leader, or something. Somebody got to be over all that. Like, there has to be, you know what I'm saying?
And a crazy title for a leader of a country isn't new because, of course, they used to call God the leader of Skypea God.
Yeah, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, this
that
is
wouldn't be
just,
far fetched.
like, that would make sense. Like, that wouldn't even be outlandish for real to think about.
Going back into the castle, and he's resisting. Right, Harold's resisting what's going on. It makes me think, okay, he's branded. He's part of the Devs Covenant. Right, he's locked in with them, and at that point, Emu can basically possess any of them at any point in time that he wants. Is that still considered Domi Reversi, or is he just like possessing them? Because he says Domi Reversi when he's taking over rocks, when he's taking over Dorian Bragi, but he doesn't say that when he's taking over Saturn, when he's taking over Gunko.
Yeah, so I believe that through the Abyss, they obviously have the connection to where he can, possess him, because we've seen it, like you said, we're saying, and these people that he's possessing are taking his form. Like when he possessed Saint Saturn, he looked long and ugly, like Mu's silhouette. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I do think that that's the case, but I feel like, I don't know, I'm kind of conflicted because I think it's like, I feel like the Dami Reversi matters because you're being sucked into that literal place. It's not him doing a magic trick and now you just transform like on the spot. You're literally going somewhere and coming back something else. So that's why I believe that, like,
But Rocks didn't. He just went through him. Him, yeah. He just
yeah,
like kind of
but
impaled him.
but Saint Saturn was standing over the circle. You see what I'm saying? When Dorian Bragi got turned, they were standing over the pentagrams on the floor. Like
I guess it's just different ways
you
he
know
can
what I'm
activate
saying?
it.
And Mu himself was technically there through the presence of Saturn when he personally Dami Reversi rocks. When we see him Dami Reversi Dorian Bragi them, he just called it out.
And again, the circles appeared and they started being sucked in like you're going somewhere. So that's why I believe that like it's still a possibility because if he's possessing, like if you're resisting his possession, which we can see now, he's actually doing that. I don't think he's gonna be able to successfully possess you like he needs to without Domi reversing. Like, I feel like the Domi reverse is the full take away your willpower because Rox told us as he said to Roger and Garp, he felt like he was like in the back seat pretty much. He has no control over anything. He's mentally here. He can see, he can hear, he can feel, but he can't control any action that he's doing.
Yeah, so because they're all connected, right? They have a bond now.
Yeah. And
He willingly takes them over, and they allow him to.
Yeah, and Harold's resisting that.
Harold's resisting
So
it.
in order for him to, in any way, shape, form, go through with the possession, he would have to Domi reverse him because that takes away, you know what I'm saying? That takes you out of the driver's seat.
Can I ask y'all a
Well,
question?
we'll see. What?
Now, do you think that we get to learn in this arc exactly what Domi Reversi
For sure.
is?
For
hope
sure.
so.
I'm really hoping
There's too many
we
questions
do.
behind. I have too many questions behind it.
Same, because I feel like a lot of these questions are answered if we learn how it works in the first place.
I'm learning. I don't think.
Because,
I
bro,
think we learn. I think because the way One Piece be doing this most of the time, before you learn the why to something, you've been knowing the what. We've been knowing God Valley. We just didn't know why. We've been knowing, Emu for a while now. But you know what I'm saying?
I do have a
I feel
connected
like this.
question
I feel
to
like
that
this is
too that I want to
another.
make sure I ask y'all too.
I feel like this is. I feel like Luffy never learned how to defeat Domi Reversi entities, but the secret behind that itself, I don't think that's something we learn until we start getting into the nitty gritty of the real. You know what I'm saying?
See, and that's why I asked that, because I feel like to see how they're gonna beat it, they kind of got to know exactly what's going on, because obviously Scoper Goblin can explain how to beat it. He knows how to beat the people who are immortal. So it's like, does that get explained? And then the connected question I had to that for y'all, because I've been thinking about it, like this may be a leap of faith question based off what's going on right now. Does this also play a part in why Blackbeard was able to do what he did to get that second devil fruit, and he had to cover himself type? Like, do we get to, like, does it all get to merge together? Because that's my brain, how it works when I'm trying to connect the dots with stuff. And I feel like that's all what it's leaning towards.
I don't know the answer to your second question, but the first one is Scopper knows how to keep them from regenerating because he saw, well, he didn't see, but Roger obviously told him what they had to do to stop rocks.
Right.
So that's the answer to that one.
That makes sense.
But hold on though, they do not know how to stop it all the way. What Scopper has knowledge of.
You have to do. They stopped it.
No, killing him literally put his arm back on, and Scopper cut it off. He cut it off, and he announced, "Oh my God, that really hurt. Why would you do that?" And then by the time Domi reversed
No,
everybody,
Scopper. What I'm saying is Scopper knows how to stop them. How to like stop the Domi Reversi. How to stop it. He knows how to stop it.
no, I'm saying like as far as like we know how to beat them up, but because they're immortal, like they will at some point they can put themselves back. Like you know what I'm saying? We might be able
but
to
that's
escape.
his
but, like,
question was, does Scopper know how to fully reverse the Domi Reversi?
and that's what I was saying. Nah,
He knows, bro, because they did it to Rocks, and Roger told him. Garp and Roger did it to Rocks. And Roger obviously told them, and that's what Scopper is alluding to. He knows how to do it.
not facts. And the people that I'm talking about weren't Domi Reversi. They're just immortal. So nah, I feel
You feel me?
Yeah,
and
yeah,
does
no,
he
I
break
feel
it
you.
down to the Straw Hats when he lets them know?
That
like,
brings up
that's why
another
I'm
thing,
able to
though.
bring it
They're
up to
just
him.
immortal. They're not Domi Reversi, but it's under the same power.
Yeah, but I'm saying though, literally, I'm pretty sure it's killing him, the Thorns man, right? Yeah, bro. Scopper cut his arm off. He
Right,
made a
and
big deal about
he
how much it
regenerated.
hurt and everything, and it was all for a minute. Like he chopped him up. It took him a minute to like get himself back together, but he indeed got back together. You know what I'm saying? So my thing is, I don't think Scopper like I think he knows how to buy time efficiently, but bro still put himself back together. That could just be because Emu's present on the island, and he very clearly has an insurmountable amount of power.
Well, he also just didn't have time to fully do what he knows
Slice
he
and
needs to
dice,
do.
and yeah, he kind of did
Because
that
he
on
knows that it takes the Supreme King Hockey or whatever it's called to do that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because he did do that in the action to save somebody else. But I feel you.
What I was just saying, though, is that brings up another thought. It's like, okay, that's how you stop the Domi Reversi, but these guys aren't Domi Reversi,
That's
right?
what I'm saying.
They're
Like
just
we don't
they're
have no
just
answer for that
immortal.
yet. Yeah.
But my thing is, my initial thought is they're under the same power, so it's probably the way to reverse the effect reverse the immortality is to do the same thing to Supreme King Haki.
The only reason that I don't believe that is because
Just an initial thought.
it's been times where we've seen other beings use, the Supreme King Haki on them. And again, it might slow them down. But I think you have to sever the link with Emu to get in the way of the immortality. I don't think an outside force has anything to do with that. I think that's why it's so dangerous that Emu can do that. Because again, I might be able to beat you up, cut you up into pieces, get away. You know what I'm saying? I might be able to win the fight. But to negate the fact that you can't die, I don't think there's anything I can do to stop that.
Do you think that Shanks' arm being cut off severed his
Yes.
link?
Yes. And the only reason that I think that is because when Scopper cut off Killingham's arm, he cut off his what arm? Left arm. Everybody who's branded is branded where? Left arm. So the only way, like I said, but the only way to sever the link would be to that got to be gone, and it can't never come back. And Shanks makes sure he lost his stuff up to the shoulder.
Killingham's the dragon, right?
I think he's the Thorns man. Who's the Summers? My bad. I keep saying Killingham. I'm sorry. It's Summers.
Wait, so you said he said
Summers is the one with the thorns.
yeah.
and
So he cut his left arm off, the one
Yeah.
with the link.
Yeah, Scopper.
Then how did he regenerate?
That's what took him so long. But that's why it took a long, and that's why this hurts. Like he cut off.
Then
the
why
arm.
didn't Shanks regenerate? Oh, because he never became immortal. Because he was still a
Shanks
He went
blade.
missing.
only
Exactly.
had that first seal.
He was only a blade.
He was a blade.
See? So by him losing his arm, he doesn't have to worry about it coming back. He's not that deep.
So we were thinking, just speaking of Shanks, we were thinking that he's there for a while. Whatever. We didn't really know how long he was there. Turns out he's only there for like a year.
I mean, that's long enough. That's pretty long.
So like, what is his reasoning?
To learn what was going on inside
learned all
the
you need to
whole
learn
He's
in
just
here.
shady. He's just shady. Until they actually explain it, we'll never know.
And it's like you knew enough to get out before they took you to the next level.
Well, I would have to assume, which I know we'll probably see this at some point in the future, because if all these other no names are getting flashbacks, we're gonna get a good Shanks one. And I believe that at some point in time, Shanks and his big brother sat together, because mind you, Shanks came home and pretended to be just like them. I'm 1,000% sure that him and his big brother was probably talking, and his big brother, who actually has this contract already, like his big brother had already signed the deal that he avoided. I'm pretty sure he just told him, like, you're my brother. Like, we finally found you. I love you. I'm happy to have you home. You're literally with us, actively carrying out missions. Why would I feel the need to, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
To
last
hold
chapter it
anything
did.
back from my twin.
Last chapter it did make it seem like
They was
Shamrock
tight.
was more chill.
He actually likes
Yeah,
him.
like he real deal love his brother.
and
Like, I don't
Shanks
think
was the pretentious one.
you feel me? So I don't think he would withhold any information like that from him. And then again, their father, he could have learned that from his daddy too. His daddy could have just told him straight up, look, this is your lot in life. This is what we do. We are, like, our lot is to be loyal to Mu. And you will do this, and this is how, like, that's also a possibility. I mean, look who his daddy is. And look how proud he was. Hey, everybody, my boys. Like, you know what I'm saying? That was probably easy. And that's probably why he got to get out so fast, because he didn't have to, get in too deep. He had the power of knowledge.
And this is only 14 years ago, so where does Shanks go at this point?
I think that's when he went and stole the devil fruit after that. I think after he left, that's when he went
True,
and
because
stole,
Luffy, yeah.
because they went, because, what's his name?
But Luffy's only
But
18
Luffy's
right
like
now.
what, 16 or 18?
No.
Right, how old is he right now?
Luffy's not alive right now.
No,
right now.
like literally right now in the story.
Oh, he is,
I thought he was like 16.
he's 17.
He was 17 2-year time skip.
He was
so he's
15
19.
pre-time skip.
Oh, he was 15
No.
pre-time?
He's 19. My bad. He was 17 pre-time skip. He's 19 now.
Okay. So
makes
14
sense.
years ago, he was 6.
He was 5.
Yeah.
So that does line up. That lines up for
Yeah.
when Shanks
That
met
did
him,
matter?
because he was about 5 or
Yeah.
6. Yeah, that
No.
that lines up. Because I was just about to
Well,
ask the same
he
question
ate
as
the
you.
devil fruit when he was 5, so
'Cause
same
I was,
thing.
So yeah,
that
he
makes
went
it
there
line
and he
up.
stole the devil fruit.
Yeah.
So he probably learned about the devil fruit there.
He learned everything he needed to know.
So he probably went there with a plan. It was like, okay, I need to go find out what I need to find out to know where this devil fruit is at. Because his plan is to make Ace the king of the pirates at this time.
You feel me?
Right.
With the knowledge that he had, yes, and he told us this. Yeah. It's the knowledge we hold.
It all checks out.
And that's why they was all freaked out that Luffy ate the fruit. That was the whole point of him showing up to Fuchsia Village.
Did y'all hear about like theories that people were talking about saying the Shanks and Shamrock switch places?
Bro, I hate unintelligent brain rot.
I'm not going for that.
on
I'm
the
not going
internet.
for that, bro.
Like, quit, bro. The thing is, bro, even if that was the case, you could never explain the total information swap. First of all, Harold showed us that people see the both of them and can very clearly tell there's a difference.
And Shanks ain't growing that much hair in a year.
Loki literally seen both of them and stated, "Nah, bro, but you different. It's just something about you." People can very clearly tell. So it's like, and I'm saying that because they know them. I'm talking about the people that actually know the person. There's no way Shamrock the person could have completely took over Shanks' identity and all of Shanks' power friends who've known him since he was a baby in the treasure chest just don't think something's off.
Chapter showing Shanks as a god's not, or a blade of God and acting pretentious, things like that, whatever. I obviously know or think that he's obviously playing some sort of role, right? It's just funny that it made it seem like, okay, he's got these ulterior motives and all these things, but then he's only there for a year. So it's
Bro,
like,
yes,
okay,
bro, because
Yeah.
all right, now it gets back to the point, okay, Shanks is Shanks.
They
And
pump
I don't
fake
think,
this.
I don't,
look,
yeah, I don't think
bro,
he's that. I don't think he's like a bad guy.
bro, my
Nah,
thing is,
they
bro,
pump fake this with
look
that.
at where he was at. You can't not act like that and live there. And we've seen this time and time again through One Piece. Why would anybody be surprised that he went to the place where everybody acts like that and acted like that? Like it just doesn't even make sense from my POV at all. That's how you have to act to survive there, or they kill you. I don't. We all watching the same show, like you know what I'm saying? Like
I can see that.
you feel me? Like literally, cuz look at Doflamingo. Look at every Celestial that you've ever been privy to ever in the entirety of the show.
So not Harold. They have Loki locked up for what he did to what was the village called?
Like Ikabro or something like that.
It's like a brewer village.
Brewer
Yeah,
Village or
yeah.
something like that.
He slaughtered they whole. You feel me?
Rightfully so.
So
Yeah.
they lock him up for it though, but so he's just at this point he just didn't tell them why he did it, right? Because if I feel like if he told them why, then they wouldn't have locked him up, or they did what it did anyway, just to like save face.
Listen, bro. He was going to jail regardless because he's the demon child of prophecy and he just burned down the town. It doesn't matter what he says. You're fulfilling the prophecy every day, Loki. Every day.
The Brewer Village is
I said the Ekbro something village or something like
It
that.
was brewer for sure.
yeah, definitely not the Egg Bro, but I'm trying to see if it is actually the Brewer Village.
Because I swear he told him, yeah, it got out of real good and poison. Once it said good,
Brewer's Village, yes.
they out of there.
Loki's mother's home. So they're like the Brewers Village. They're the pure
Ancient
giants.
Giants, yes.
So yeah, they definitely had to lock him up for that.
He just went and killed them all and burned the town to the ground.
Harold says that he's going to abdicate the throne, and he thinks that there's a pure giant who should be the king. Is he talking about Loki, or is he talking about Haruden,
One or the other.
or is he
don't
talking
know.
about Saul? He can't be talking about Saul.
I don't think he's talking about Saul. I
Can't be
think he's
talking
talking
about
about
Saul's
Saul.
not
Hyrule.
young.
Yeah, Saul thinks.
Yeah, Saul's not young.
I'm gonna
not
go with
young,
the
yeah.
underdog. I'm think he's talking about Hyrule right there.
But why would he say pure?
Because he's pure.
But
I think
Loki's
he's
literally pure.
I think he's talking about pure of heart rather than pure of race, because obviously he's trying to get away from the older ways of Elbaf.
Yeah,
how
they won't even
function.
let him marry
So he's
his
trying to get
wife.
away from that already.
That, you know,
So
his
I think
treasure,
he's
he
talking
called
about
it.
that from a pure person.
In Harold's last conversation with Ida too,
Mm-hmm.
she was saying, "What about Loki?" And he was like, "He'll be Hyruden's little brother."
Like, you feel me?
Oh yeah, I guess he could be talking about Hyruden, but
Either one. I think
I
he
think
was
it
just
is-
referencing one of his sons.
I think it is interesting
You feel me?
that the fact that Oda didn't say which one he was talking about yet.
Yeah, I just think naturally from the mind of a parent, you don't have favorites. You think both your boys are special. One of them is gonna do it.
And was Hyruden, like when they met him in Dressrosa, they say his goal was to be
The king
the
of
king, or
Elbaf.
was it just to become a warrior, a
No,
great warrior?
the king of Elbaf.
king?
And he needed to gain great strength because there's somebody in the way, and we now know who that somebody is.
His brother.
Oh yeah. And he's definitely in the way. And Haruden, sorry, brother, you ain't got that.
Yeah, I don't think he's ready for that right now.
You ain't gonna be ready for that ever. It just wasn't in your cards, bro.
Sorry. You nice, though.
And that might be why he lets him do it.
Do y'all
Like, you feel
know
me?
what Loki would have done to that 10-ton human in Dressrosa? The one who was breaking Harudin's bones?
We don't know.
Don't.
You don't even know Loki's power yet.
Bro,
You
I
don't.
know he got that hammer. I seen him smack it against that
Please
tree and
don't.
set the whole country on fire. He smacked Fat Man with that hammer. We'd have never seen him again.
Then he is the one to set it on fire, ain't he?
Yes. The whole country of Elbaf with one swing of, what's it called, Fenrir, set the whole country on fire. One swing. And then, Loki, please don't. I'm doing that. Fire. Lightning struck and everything. If he would have smacked that 10-ton man in Dressrosa with that hammer, there was no more of him.
Has Luffy already asked him to join the crew?
Yes. Yeah. He started with that. You know, that's how he's coming in when a new person of interest is there. Hey,
Join my crew.
you know I got a crew, right? Going in, like, immediately.
And you strong that I'm come on with it. Like, what? And you know, I told him, bro, don't even try to buy me up. Don't nobody here like you or want you here. Right, everybody? And everybody's like,
You gotta think about it though. The little kid pirate captain who gets to all the extracurricular people, like, bro, a skeleton, a big old whale shark. Like, you feel me? He
Yeah,
sees something
bro.
crazy. He's like, oh, come with me,
bro,
please.
you're rolling
Like,
with
immediately.
a 9-foot cyborg, a 10-foot skeleton,
Mhm.
a 10-foot whale shark, a reindeer.
Mm-hmm. A human mecha human reindeer at that. That's great at the study of science. Like, do you feel me? Like, yeah, that's a regular Tuesday. Adding a giant on there.
We need that actually.
Why not?
That you actually something I don't got. Come on.
And knowing what we know about that mural,
And the thing is, though, as soon as
we
he
need
asked
him
me,
in there.
the first thing Frankie and him about him, bro, he can't fit on the Sunny. Luffy's like, bro, we'll worry about that later. Like, we rode a boat here. Y'all tripping. We can get us one that can fit him.
Yeah. I mean, they would have made one. Or they could just grab one.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't think we'll get a new boat because the Sunny has been always lowered as the one that's gonna take us around.
Especially since we know he's a sun god now.
But I'm
too.
not. But I'm not gonna lie though. They could just make the Sunny bigger.
Yeah.
They're in the land of the wood that you need to make the boat. That bark that they use comes specifically from Elbaf.
I don't know if they would do that, though, because you had to be a giant to steer that boat.
And that's all right if you get him on there.
He's not going to
No,
he's not
'cause
going to become
Jinbei
the
is the
He's the
helmsman.
helmsman, but think about it. This is Jinbei. He's
No,
not small.
But he's not tall enough.
But let's
You
be
right.
real though.
You're not wrong
With the
about that.
technology that they have, imagine they
Sure,
are
they could make one to where
they
he
are
could just...
rolling with the
I'm
Vega
just
punch.
saying. I'm just
So
saying.
they can have it to where the ship is big enough to hold Loki, but the controls are, regular people. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Maybe
That would
he's
make
the
sense.
one who flutters the sails. He does all the big people stuff because this is a big giant boat. But like, you feel me? Or also, bro, he could just walk through the water.
Can he?
That's a little monkey, but I feel like he
I ain't
could.
gonna lie, bro. They've been shown to be able to do that.
But yeah, be for real, bro. Like, you got to imagine like how far they're traveling.
Like the travels though. Like, yeah, I think
Alright,
that would
so
be
it's from our little puny point of view, right? Maybe.
I mean, yeah, he could
Think
do
about
it.
how massive he is, cuz. A great length for us. If he decides to sprint, cuz, think about how much ground this man's covering.
this is the ocean. This is
Yeah,
the
yeah.
ocean
I
though.
think
I'm
you're
saying
tripping there,
though,
brother.
with one step, cuz.
I
Think
get
about
you.
how much ground he's covering. Think about how much water we've sailed. If he decides to take one big step.
We talking about a world where 200 meters has put civilizations
Hold on, though.
underwater.
Hold on. Now hear me out. Because this is going exactly back up my theory. San Juan Wolf is a giant who ate the giant fruit, and he does not ever fit on anybody's boat. How does he get around with the Blackbeard pirates?
He
doesn't
also
fly.
ate the giant fruit.
He
And
walks through the water.
They also have somebody who can teleport people.
Well before he had the warp fruit, San Juan Wolf
I'm
had the
just saying,
giant
I'm
But
fruit.
just
listen
saying.
though, you
I'm
just
just- I'm just
said
keeping it G.
giant fruit.
Yeah, he can get
That
bigger.
is like, come on, that's
And he can just
literally.
take...
And he was also a giant before
But
that.
they stated San Juan Wolf was already an abnormal giant prior to eating the giant fruit.
But he also ate that fruit. Loki ain't ate that much.
That is true, but an ancient giant, they're massive.
Yeah.
But
That's true.
one thing I will throw out there are many different types of giants throughout the world of One Piece. The Elbaf giants just so happen to be like the cream of the crop.
because they stated that when they said the Navy started like going out to other giant nations and recruiting them instead of Elbaf giants, because there's other giant nations that
There's other.
exist.
I thought there were.
Yeah, no, they said that the Navy went out to other giant nations across the world and recruited.
I must have missed that part.
Yep.
I don't remember. I thought all giants came from Elbaf.
No,
I ain't gonna lie, I thought that too.
no, not at all.
But
Not even.
it wouldn't be surprising if that's not the case though.
Not at all. Not every giant's from Elbaf. Not
Like that's
even
just
a
a
little bit.
country of giants.
Yeah.
Like you feel me? It's nothing but giants.
That's the
in
primary
That would
place
make
where-
sense.
like, you know what I'm
though.
saying? But no, there's other giant nations out there. But like I said, Elbaf is like the cream of the crop. You know what I'm saying? There's other giants.
And
There's
Neptune,
other
like,
giant nations out there.
Neptune's literally a fish man, and look
But
at
that was just crazy because how has Linlin become who she was based on her parents? She had 2 regular parents.
she said,
Math ain't mathing, cuz.
eat it up. That's what she
They
said.
said we just can't feed her. We're just gonna have to abandon her on this rock in the middle of the ocean.
Bro, she was huge at 4.
She got that hungry.
Y'all terrible people. Y'all abandoned this woman on a rock in the middle of the ocean.
Not a woman, bro.
She's not a woman.
That's
at
a
all.
beast. That's a beast.
That's a baby.
I ain't gonna lie,
That is a
bro.
beast.
The Big Mom slander is crazy. Y'all seen how bad she was?
No,
in the
she
God
earned
Valley
it. No,
days,
no, she
bro.
earned a lot of it. She earned a lot of
That's
it.
a beast.
She's terrible. She's a
Yeah,
terrible person.
Yeah, she was a power captain at 8. She was on fish. Nigga, Robin was running for her life
Bro, they dropped her off. She was 3, 4 years old, bro. Like,
and didn't die. She bawled. She ransacked the nearest town
She
off
said,
the
I
back of
know
that.
y'all got something to eat
bro,
right
they
now."
left her with months worth of food and she ate it in a day.
That wasn't months worth of food to
Bro,
her.
nah, bro.
Look at her, bro. What you
And
mean?
that's
nah?
why. That's why they had to. That's why they dropped her off at Elba. Like, that's not that in their eyes. That's not petty, bro.
But they didn't drop her off at Elbaf, did they, bro?
No, they didn't.
I thought
Yeah,
they
they
dropped-
did.
I
They
thought
dropped
they-
off at
I thought
Elba
they dropped her off
in
on a
Elba
rock.
at Elba.
They said, well, we can't do nothing with it. I
They
know
couldn't.
y'all
They
got
couldn't
something.
go. They wasn't gonna be able to get in the Elba.
Facts.
They dropped her off at Elba. Yeah, tripping
And she went there and slaughtered the town.
and started.
That's insane.
Bro,
It's insane.
nah, bro.
Yeah, but Mother Kerm was the original demon, though.
That was just crazy. That whole flashback of just her being this super nice person.
Bro, again, One Piece has a good way of taking genuine souls and just putting them through irreversible tragedy that make them who they are today.
But like, why do you even want to go through that?
They didn't.
No, she's doing all that. And it's like you made it seem like you like these kids, and then you actually hate them. Why are you doing this?
Oh yeah. Mother Kerma was literally Satan, literally, and she worked for the world. But again, we wonder why somebody like Mother Kerma was on that type of time. But then we also remember, bro, evil exists. I'm under the impression everybody on the verge of the most wicked things that you could do, they know. Oh nah, bro. Oh nah. You ain't selling kids for nothing. You
She didn't know,
something.
bro. She don't know move. She just listens to the elders.
That's what I'm saying.
If that.
At least the knowledge of them, the elders. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
'Cause
people
if
know
you-
about the elders.
No, but I'm saying though, cause if you have any cahoots with them, you know, like, bro, they will kill you. She was on Elbaf, wasn't she? So if she's on Elbaf and we know, like, you know what I'm saying? I'm just saying it's not outlandish for her to, you know what I'm saying? I think the most wicked souls in One Piece know what they ain't supposed to know, and that's why they, you feel me,
Now, do
getting
you
off.
think it's conscious or subconscious? Like something somewhere is telling them that it gets worse.
She's literally
than this,
selling kids
or
to the
they
government.
actually know.
Somebody's telling her. She has some sort of inside drop. People work her.
Because I think the 5 elders are enough for the fear factor.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
you
what
know,
I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Like, cause bro, think about it. When they killed King Cobra, they didn't show their real forms. They upped Glock on them immediately. They said, "Oh, brother, you wasn't supposed to see that." They didn't go crazy, big animal forms. They said, "Oh man, you don't leave." Like,
Nah, and to see what they can do with their forms and to know that they up Blicky is crazy.
insane. They'll still pull
No,
the
these are
blick
evil
out on
people,
you.
bro. These are terrible people.
The worst. The worst.
So, I know you said earlier that you think it's going to continue with the flashback, but I think the next chapter is next week, right? We get
No, it's a
chapter next week.
break.
I don't think we have breaks for the rest of the year.
It's 2 weeks, right?
No, we got 2 weeks.
It's 2
So
weeks.
we get a break next
Yeah,
week.
we got a break.
So I think in the next chapter, I think we get a chapter of just present time. I do. Because it literally just spent the entire last page basically saying, but now let's return to the story. On this day, there was a terrible massacre inside the castle, and the most beloved ruler in the history of Elbaf, wise King Harald, perished.
The literal story of why he died.
Yeah,
bro.
they ready to get
They're
started with that
telling you
story.
that's the story. The reason why we started the flashback in the beginning. Yes, yes.
I'm with them on
Literally,
this, bro. I
bro. Like
think they about to tell us like this is the start of his
you just not
demise.
comprehending that right. Cause I ain't gonna lie.
Like they about to get to the story of him perishing. The day he
Now
perished,
we're
we get to
finally
learn.
gonna tell you what happened on this fateful day, and that's why they showed his picture, bro. Like
Mm-hmm. I'm with him
you're
on
about
this
to
one.
find out what happened to OG right here, right now, because in the present day, Haruden said, Loki, what happened to our daddy? You got 3 minutes.
And Loki's about to tell him when we get back. That's what I think.
So now we in the present day of being told how this went down.
But why do that if it's art? You're literally already telling the story.
He wasn't.
They're telling the story. He's in the castle.
Yeah.
He's telling them. He's bringing it. That's
I
already
get
telling
what
the
you're
story.
saying.
Why do that?
I do get what you're saying.
Because now, I mean, I get it. I feel like it's probably just a storytelling element, but no.
I understand what you guys are saying, and it makes sense. I'm just kind of confused as to why
Yeah.
that would.
You didn't have to double flashback us. Like
Yeah.
you could have just said like
But now let us
see
return to the
Yeah.
story.
Yeah, he's milking the cow.
Yeah, like, for sure. I get it though.
But it could also be a half chapter. You feel what I'm saying? It could be half of the chapter is literally because, like you said, we've seen the beginning half of what happened to Harold that day. We know that he called his sons. We know that he's telling them the time to the pillar. Half the chapter could be dedicated to what actually happened to him, and then the other half is what's actually going on. Like that could be why it's worded like that.
I hope that it's what you guys are saying, 100%, because I want to know what the hell happened
Yeah, facts.
in the
I need to know
castle.
if bro really got Domi Reversi or not.
Yes, we can end this debate.
I also want to know, in the final moments before whatever happens to Harold happens, I want to know his thoughts because we're seeing him right now kind of go over the fact that, bro, did you just want to use me the whole time? Was your whole like, you know what I'm saying? So I want to see because every notable One Piece character has that final thought moment where we get to know how they actually feel about what's transpiring.
And is he fighting, being controlled the entire time? Is he still in his right mind and telling them basically, you guys got to kill me?
Right.
You have to do it.
Because if I go,
But
if
it's
I
like
don't,
he's like, is he conscious while he's doing all this?
Yeah,
Like Rocks was still conscious.
I think he's conscious because
No, Rocks was still conscious, but he couldn't speak. He used the voice of all things. He couldn't speak to them, but Harold was actually still speaking to them.
well, Harold signed the contract though, so he didn't have to be like what he did to Rox was against Rox's will.
No, I get it. But what I'm saying is,
He don't need to do all that work.
I know what I'm saying is, it just makes you think: is he still going to be talking to them, basically like, "Hey, I can't control myself. Y'all, like, watch out." And then he ends up.
No, and I think that's why
It's gonna get to the. You
I
think it's
think-
gonna get to the point where he's like
fully
Rocks?
turns.
bro, for sure that's why everybody got slaughtered. I 100% believe because they said in this chapter, one when he was talking to Moo, the guards was like, "Yo, who's King talking to? Like, what's this about? Who's he? Who's he talking to?" Once Moo pretty much told him like, "You can't disobey me now," like that was the purpose of this contract. That's why King Harold call my son, do this, he's doing all of this now so that when he is in that form where he can no
It's
longer
like tie me
speak,
to the.
you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, tie me to the post because you're not. It's almost over with.
You see what I'm saying?
He's going to end up
And
getting
once
fully
I
turned.
can't control
can see that.
myself, you all will only have the image of this terrible tyrant king that turned on y'all out of nowhere, and you know what I'm saying? You won't go down as the honorable king that he did. See, he put the play deal. He knew that his son and Jaru could save his image in some way, shape, form to keep the prosperity of the giant nation alive so that they wouldn't go back to Bob. Because if the giants was to become aware that somebody deep in the world government, because they knew he was a guy's knight, they knew this. So if the rest of the country was to find out that y'all took our beloved and they sliding. They're about to be those giant people that he worked so hard for them not to be. So it was very imperative that they isolated that situation. You know what I'm saying? Before he was uncontrollable, because had it not been that way, I mean, you know what I'm saying? Because how do you think they was gonna take it? There's a whole nation of people with undying loyalty to that man. They loved him.
I'm not going to lie. I can't wait to see their liberation moment because everybody that we get introduced to in One Piece, there's something that happens to where like in a flashback or something of that nature, their reason of needing the Warrior of Liberation is explained. So I feel like it's about to happen for Elbaf once we figure out why King Harald, like what happens with the King Harald situation. We get introduced to why they need the Warrior of Liberation because everybody else's has already been explained each time you get to the end of the arc.
Yeah, I think it is that is interesting that within this flashback they haven't said anything about the War of Liberation, but that's literally their god. And it's like Harold's entire purpose or plan is to integrate Elbaf with the rest of the world, but he's never once mentioned Nika.
But the reason for that being, in my opinion, is because with him hanging around the elders and knowing them and being a part of that faction, it's almost a given that he's fully aware that they hate Joy Boy and Nika because everybody that we've seen affiliated with them at that level, they all know that. That's a given. When they popped up on Elbaf, rule number one is we do not mess with Sun God at all. We come, we do our thing, and we leave him alone. Whatever we do not bother him. They have to know at that level because it moved like that's eternal hatred. There's no way you're gonna serve me and not know who we hate. Because I'm gonna send you to kill people who bring him up. I'm gonna send you to eradicate whole islands of people who even mention his name. There's no way you finna tell me your island of people sit there and praise him all day. That's who y'all think the man is. No. And that's why I always said Harold's playing his role because, like you just said, because their literal god is Nika. And I also think that that's why it didn't go down the way it was supposed to because, bruh, fate works crazy in One Piece. You are part of a faction that is directly against this opposition. There's no way the universe was about to allow y'all to assimilate. That would have went against everything you and your people's, your whole, even Ada mentioned it. You know, I understand that you want to, liberate our people and woo, but
So that's our culture.
like us
She says
being
she like
warriors,
the warrior culture.
that's our
Mhm.
culture. You feel me? Like, and I respect us not being bullies and destructive to others, but why are we completely throwing away what makes us us? I think that's important that she mentioned that.
He's had tunnel vision, bro.
Like I
He
told you, bro,
did.
that Rock's death. But I see now. I see why they said he became the madman, because not literally like how we were thinking initially, where he's just, you know what I'm saying? No, but he was just so locked in on his mission that he just didn't care about nothing else. But it was working though. I can't even knock him because from Harold's point of view, everything that he was striving for was seemingly happening the way that he thought that it was gonna happen. It literally wasn't until the final moment of, hey, I think I'm gonna make somebody else. I know you not.
Right.
Not like this is all new news.
He hit him with a by the way. He said, by the way, I did want to retire after this. I said, oh, by the way, that's not how this works.
That's why you can't die. That's why you're immortal.
That's up for Mood to decide.
If we wanted you, if it was retirement parties, nobody would be immortal. You don't. It's you forever.
Like, bro.
But I mean, he wasn't portrayed as the smartest dude.
No, he's a big brute. Come on, bro. And then in the middle of his big brute life, he was inspired to go against the grain of his very fabric.
He didn't even question the whole process of
It's not
becoming
intelligent,
immortal.
bro.
He's like, wait, you guys are actually immortal?
Yeah. Like, y'all mean that or y'all just saying
Nah,
that?
gang, he could feel it.
No, I'm saying I know, but I'm saying he didn't like question any of that.
But also because think about how long it took for him to get to that level. I'm pretty sure he's seen somebody lose an arm and that mud grow back.
I don't know, bro.
Oh,
This
yeah.
all happened in 1 year, literally.
In 1 year, they was carrying out missions. You don't think in 1 year nobody took no damage?
He was slaughtering
He
stuff.
never seen how the immortality. You don't think he never seen how none of their power
I
worked?
don't think so.
No, remember they said he became a blade. They said that they would call him when they needed him, but then they showed all the flashbacks of him going to Fishman Island, chilling with. So he's around the
I
world.
feel
He's
you.
back with
No, I
Ida.
feel
He's
you.
not even with them, bro.
He
for
was
that
on a
year.
need to know basis.
He
bro.
may not
Yeah.
have been actively. He was carrying out missions, but I feel what you're
He
saying.
don't need to
He
know
wasn't
everything else.
He wasn't pulling up with gang through the abyss, ready to call.
He
But
literally was with, like they say, he went to Fishman Island. He's with Ida. She's literally on her deathbed.
But hold on though.
What?
Another thing that to just double back on the how Loki could travel because I just thought of this. How was Harold in the middle of the ocean stopping boats? Not on the boat.
He had a boat. The boat was there. Boat was there.
Was he really?
Yeah.
But I don't remember seeing no boat. I remember seeing his giant shadow in the mist. I don't remember seeing no boats.
Bro, that's giant boats. We know the giants use boats.
Boat was there, bro.
Only giant not using a boat is the giant who ate the giant fruit. He's super giant.
Bro, yeah, he had a boat, brother.
Understand? Because I just thought about that. I'm like, hold on. How he in the middle of the ocean? How
Right,
he?
gang, there's sea kings in the ocean. Them things are huge.
See, look, his boat is right here.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, he jumps off the boat.
Yeah, and that's why his shadow look like that in the mist. It just makes him like he appears out of nowhere. Okay. They're abnormally huge. Like Haruden is literally a giant. They make him look like a dwarf.
He's like the little giant.
He's not even the like kneecap, bro. Like, have you ever seen the size comparisons?
Yeah, no, Loki has talked bad to him just for being
Gang,
such a
he's
puny
not-
giant.
He's not
Are
standing.
Dorian Broggy bigger than Haruda?
Yeah,
I think so.
and they just regular giants too. They just normal. But remember, Haruden does come from a dwarf giant. That's why he's so small. His mom is literally one of the smallest giants ever. She barely made the cut to be a giant for real.
I just watched the dub version of the Giants showing up to Dorian Broggy showing up to Egghead today because the dub like
A couple weeks back, ain't it?
yeah dropped like 10 episodes like a couple weeks back,
They've been catching up.
and I'm just thinking like literally as I'm watching them because I've seen it for the third time at this point, but as I'm watching it, I'm like, bro, how tall is Loki, bro?
Ginormous.
How tall is Harold, bro? Like
Ginormous. Like the ancient giants were massive. You remember Oars? Massive. Little Oars Jr.
Yeah, because
my
think
bad.
about
Think about Little Oars Jr. and then
horns.
think about his daddy.
the horns.
massive.
That's the ancient giant race.
When Little Oars Jr. popped up in Marineford, mind you, it was a fleet of army giants. None of them were even close to being as big as him. But mind you, Domi cut off his leg in one swoop, one try. That's kind of crazy.
yeah, like the strong people don't care how big you are.
Yeah,
bro.
facts. He said you just a
Yeah,
bigger
but
target.
I just felt like why wasn't Little Oars Jr.
Nah, Oars wasn't just a bigger target.
No, I just feel like why wasn't Little Oars Jr. not powerful enough to stop that? I've seen a Doflamingo slash a lot of people. Only Little Oars Jr. and Law lost limbs. Everybody else blocked. I don't understand. Maybe he didn't see it coming. That would make more sense. Doflamingo's so tiny, he didn't even know that was happening. To be able to prepare himself to block or nothing, that would actually make sense. Because he's, super ginormous and Doflamingo's like this big. I get it. And he used an invisible string. Makes sense. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, it'll really be interesting to see how this castle situation plays out, this massacre situation plays out, because I'm just eager to see how they came up with the plan of, okay, we're not going to tell anybody, not even Haruden. We're just going to stick with the script on me just being evil and I just wanted to take over or whatever.
It's just Loki, bro. That's the script. Ja Rule got a sword stuck through his head that day.
It is just him, yeah.
Yeah.
That's why. And
can't
think
remember.
about it.
And everybody else is dead.
The man
Yep.
who they just freed from jail, cuz it's only right I go ahead and keep up. I'm already here. Me trying to reverse everything that they know
And
about
he
me.
doesn't
right?
communicate,
You
obviously.
see what I'm saying?
A
He's
sword
like,
through
bro,
his
I'm just
brain.
going to hold it.
He probably was just like, you know what? Of course.
Yeah, of course, this is my look.
See, that's why I didn't want to tell you. I knew you wouldn't believe me.
You feel me? Literally, bro. Like the opposite of Usopp.
My dog really did eat my homework.
Literally, Yeah, and mind you, I just
But he's
slaughtered.
he's not the boy card wolf because he doesn't say anything.
No, but that's what I'm saying though. But he just slaughtered a town off the back of nobody knows why.
It didn't right after.
See, if they knew, he slaughtered the town because they poisoned his mom, maybe, but nobody knows that.
That's
They
why I was
just
asking
know-
earlier. I was like,
Yeah, nobody knows that. They just know that he did that, and you only get to keep doing this because you're King Harald's son, and he keeps, like, it's him. King Harald keeps keeping you alive, bro, because we want you out of here immediately. So right after you slaughter a town, he just commands for us to set you free for no reason and summon you to the castle. And then the only thing we know about anything is the only person leaving the castle is Loki, and our other legend has a sword through his face. And the only people here is sword through face man, Ja Rule, and Loki. Oh, Loki, you
Everybody
definitely
else
did
is
it. And this
dead.
time you've done it for the final time. Yep.
Because he's not here to save you no more.
Facts.
You're going down.
and you went against your own father. Yeah, like you're the worst of the worst, and that's why they think he's the worst of the worst, and that's why he's a disgrace. And so, like, you killed the only man who loved you from their POV. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm. Up to this point, do you guys have anything like pressing that you wanted to kind of like get off of your chest?
For sure, for sure, for sure. For me personally, I'm gonna just go ahead and say, as much as I love the backstory and everything that's been going on, King Harald doomed the whole everybody. Why? Because as Moose stated, thou shalt go to the crib and thou shalt create the link between us for L. That's happening. You're the reason why the present day Giants just all got Domi reversied all at the same time. That's your fault, King Girl. That's all you. Yep, it's all your fault. Yep. You cool. I respect your character, but you are literally why we are currently ruling the day. Maybe we could have had a fair fight with some immortal guys in a nation full of giants had you not created an eternal link.
It's crazy because he said, "Yeah,
Like, bro, you
you're
cooked
gonna go
us.
get everybody, and you're going to create an army of Elbaf, and I mean everybody."
And when Moo pulled up in present day, it wasn't just some of them. Everybody. He was not playing, cuz he gave you the foreshadow. Cause this is what we're doing here.
He said, "Go get everybody, bro." He said, "You said you gonna be a slave, right? No, like it ain't gonna be just you. It's gonna be all of y'all."
And since you didn't obey, now y'all just on my time. I'll make y'all slave when I feel like it. Cause he could have been did that. And he's showing us today, cause he just popped up and did that. Oh, y'all thought y'all was fighting back. No.
And that's how Shamrocks and Gunko and all the rest of them popped up through that abyss.
Yeah.
Why just now though? After 14 years,
Because there was no reason.
there was a reason though. It's like
No.
because his goal was to create an army of giants. So why stop after that?
listen, 14 years prior, or in the midst of the 14 years, Joy Boy himself literally didn't exist.
It
And
doesn't
wasn't.
matter.
It
It
does
doesn't
matter.
matter because 14 years ago he wanted 14 years ago he wanted Harold to build an army of giants
Yes,
on Elbaf. So why stop even though Harold died?
because the reason that he needed him to build the army.
If he can just control them all
Listen.
as he wants.
The whole point of him, mind you, they were under the impression that Harold was going to be a good lapdog. He was going to be a good boy. They wanted him to build the army because they know that the Giants trusted him, and it was going to happen over time. And when needed, it was whenever he needed it, it was going to happen.
Like nigga's not even a thought in his head right now, bro.
But that's what I'm saying. Moo has shown us that he goes to great lengths to prepare, cuz he goes out of his way to prepare. He doesn't have to need you right now, but in case I do, I need to be ready. That was the whole purpose of that. For 14 years, again, the literal sun god wasn't wreaking havoc on Earth, liberating the world.
I don't think you're understanding what I'm saying, bro. He right then and there wanted to build an army of giants.
Because he is aware that the Joy Boy, the sun god, will return. The devil fruit was out on the loose. That's a fact.
Not yet.
Yes, it was. 14 years ago, it's the same time Shanks stole it. We just went over this.
Oh, you saying he stole it before he went missing? No, he stole it from the ship. Because remember they had it. And he stole it from the ship.
That's why it went missing, cuz Shanks went missing from Arijois and stole the devil fruit off the government sanctioned ship.
Then yeah, I mean you can allude
That
to
was
that.
14 years ago. I mean, I'm just from what we know. From what we know, that's what we have. So what I'm saying is, cuz Moo has always been in preparation for the return of his main op. He didn't need you right here, right now, but I'm gonna need you eventually. So I need this to happen. That's what I'm saying. That's why he wanted Harold to create an army of giants, because if he decides that he's coming back, we ready.
I'm not gonna lie. My out there get it off my chest statement is actually going back against what I said before, thinking that that it was going to be an ultimate showdown between, like, you feel me, Luffy and Blackbeard was gonna have to team up to go against Emu at one point in time. I actually think after knowing what I know now, after this week, that I have to change that a little bit, because my statement is that Blackbeard is actually going to ultimately be the ultimate villain. Some way, somehow, he's going to gain some type of control of what Emu's powers are. that is what I have to do. And it's only because, like how I asked earlier, the strengthening in the connection between being Domi reversied and how Blackbeard was able to get another devil fruit power. Of course, none of this is all speculation right now, but I feel like seeing what I'm seeing being unfolded right now is going to explain why that would make sense to where Marshall D. Teach is the ultimate villain of the One Piece rather than Emu.
Emu's literally the last villain, bro.
Nah, I'm with Scotto on this one though, because literally Blackbeard has to get his get backs for his daddy. Oda is not writing a story where you don't get to get your get backs. You get to get your get backs. Whether it's your ancestor, whoever's next in line on your behalf, they're getting their get backs. We've seen that the whole story. He didn't just show us Blackbeard and his mama going through what they went through, and the fact that his daddy, what did he say he was after? The world. We've been questioning the whole story what the heck Blackbeard mean by that, because when he first got asked, he stated, "Oh, I'm after the world, not the One Piece, the world." And we wondered, well, why you got to be on a different type of time. No, gang, he's mirroring his father. He's getting them get backs.
Thinking about it. What he wants right now is to be part of the world
Yes.
government and everything.
So
Like he's trying to get closer and closer.
That makes sense. He's gonna get his get back against Emu.
And overtake Emu and be king of the world, and then he's gonna be who Luffy has to get up out of here, because he will officially be Luffy's parallel.
Yeah, that's where I'm coming from on that.
Yeah.
That's where I'm coming from on that. Is
So
that
y'all think Blackbeard defeats Emu before Luffy does?
Yes, I don't think Luffy and Emu outside of this.
You
Elbaf
see
and
the crew
encounter-
he's putting together
Yeah,
right
bro.
now?
I don't think. And then they warned Saint Saturn on Egghead. Yeah, and because Teach is special.
Like, you feel me? Stuff is just starting to line up to, like, with more and more explanations. Like, okay, it went from like that could be a coincidence to like, I don't know.
The only reason I was saying this is because of the mural, bro. Like
Yeah, that's true.
Emu's the one who's been surviving through all of these eras. So why would they not end with him?
I don't think. I think this is part. I think this is just part of the end. You see what I'm saying? I do think that we're gonna have a big war to dispel Emu. That has to happen. He's not just going. But the same way at the end of Marineford, when we thought everything was cool, and Blackbeard, Zaha, oh brother, it's happening again.
You think he's gonna do that again?
Bro, he's the
sure.
ultimate opportunist.
But no, because
ultimate
Blackbeard, no,
opportunist.
Blackbeard's definitely going to be a part
Bro,
of this
he's
war.
for sure doing that, bro. If he has any glimpse, first of all, we don't know what he knows. He's a history nerd, and we know that for a fact. He spent 40 years of his life studying devil fruits, how they work. He strategically has went out and found every specific devil fruit that he needs for each specific member on purpose. None of anything that he has done has been at random.
He's just too
Nothing.
calculated.
Every single move he has made sense for the plan, and it has all been in a row. And he ain't missed a beat.
And you can't speed him up or slow him down
Nope.
either.
Don't nobody
gonna do
push
it
the
on
plan
his time.
on cuz. He will run. He will shake on you. Hey, y'all, not today. Mind you, they found Dragon's base. And Jesus Burgers. Well, what we on, Teach? Do we just
He said nothing.
nah, you leave that alone, cuz. What? Bro, we've been hunting them down for whoop, and we finally found it. Man, we ain't doing nothing, you hear me? Yeah, cuz I'm telling you, bro.
Y'all watching.
Right now, the Holy Land's on fire, bro. And we know it's either the Revolutionaries or Blackbeard, bro. But I'm going Team Blackbeard, bro. The Holy Land's on fire because they slid. He just took out Law, cuz.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. He's on the way. And we know he didn't like take Law's devil fruit and nothing crazy like that. But brother, him and his homies have what they need.
And now
He-
it
he
makes
got the
sense,
poneglyphs,
though.
bro.
See, that just hit me. If he was able to get that, think about it. If he was able to get that and then go against Moo, he might be able to like go and put himself back together as many times as
Able
necessary
to get what?
to get some. Bro,
He didn't get Lost
devil
Devil Fruit.
No,
He
he
didn't
did
get
not.
it.
He did not. No,
So what are
Law
you
got
saying?
out.
So what are you saying?
That's what I'm saying. If he was able to, if he was able to get Lost Devil Fruit, like that might have expedited his plan to like, oh, I'm about to go see him now.
Because think about it.
Like,
He's,
you know?
he knows. Like, and this is
But
just
what
my
makes
assumption.
sense? What were you getting at?
What I make sense is that, bro,
That's why he went out
you
the
can pretty
law,
much
cuz.
become immortal with Lost Devil
Yeah,
Fruit.
think about it. That was the
We
whole
know that.
purpose. No,
That's what I'm
that's
saying.
what we saying. He knows he's about to fight an immortal being, Mu. He needs the devil fruit that's gonna make him immortal so he can win the, like, you know what I'm
Like,
saying?
that's what I'm saying.
That's the
like,
whole purpose
oh, wow.
of targeting Law.
That
I
makes a
don't
lot of
need
sense.
The other
Like, you feel
fruits.
me?
You have the one I need because I'm about to make somebody make the sacrifice.
That brings Law back into it. I think Law is gonna end up
And he's also a D.
rekindling with the Straw Hats.
Why do you think Blackbeard gunned him down?
Yeah.
Again, Blackbeard's too calculated,
I know,
bro.
but what I'm saying is, I think that Law is going to catch up back with the Straw Hats, and at that point he's good.
Look, remember what I told
You
y'all?
gotta see,
Hold
because he's
on,
still a
Luffy's
competitor at the
not
end
hold
of
on,
the
though.
day.
Luffy's not letting nothing go. I don't care what nobody says.
No, they homies,
Luffy's
bro.
not
No, for
letting
sure, for sure.
That's
nothing
game.
go
For
down.
sure.
That's
Even if
game.
he don't want him to be, Luffy sees
But hold on,
otherwise.
though. Remember how I told y'all a few weeks
And
ago?
you know they still got that alliance.
Facts. Remember how I told y'all a few weeks ago that it's gonna come down to the 3 main factions? This is literally providing evidence to my point. We have people as powerful as Law who quite literally don't have a choice because Blackbeard is trying to kill you, and the 2 other parties want you dead. There's only one person in the big 3 power group that has good intention for you.
Thing is, Blackbeard, man, he keeps escaping death, bro.
He's not escaping.
Yes, he is.
I don't think it's escape, cuz.
Law almost killed him.
Law
Yeah, he
almost
definitely
killed him?
almost
Yes.
got him. He definitely almost got
If
him.
it wasn't for a
time
dude who
out.
could teleport people, he was dead.
Time out.
If it wasn't for
Time
Magellan,
out,
he was
though.
dead.
Time out, though. It
I
sounds.
mean, not Magellan. If
no,
it
no.
wasn't for a dude saving him with the antidote, he was dead.
This sounds nice, but the same way stuff just works out for Luffy, again, bro, we're talking about his parallel.
Luffy be escaping death too. What do you mean?
That's what I'm saying. It just works out that way for him. You think it's a coincidence that he pulled up on
And
Law?
I never said it's coincidence. I just said he just keep escaping death.
That's just a figure. That's just a figure of speech. I'm just saying, like, he pulled up on the man who can teleport you anywhere he wants to, and so happens to have a person who can warp you to completely negate that.
Nah, he was scared, bro.
Yeah, because he didn't have his entire crew. He had the right people.
No, he was scared to death, but I'm just saying he was fortunate enough.
Like the only dude he beat straight up was Ace. Yeah, I mean Ace got his ones in, but he was like he would control that whole fight.
That's how he works, though. He's not about to get into any fight where he does not control what's going on.
He's also the same guy who scarred Shanks and makes his face throb. So no,
I don't
if he,
like how they
so
put
if he
that, though.
wants,
If it wasn't for Akainu, no, not Akainu. If it wasn't for Whitebeard's one of his sons, I forgot his name, stabbing him.
Squadron?
If it wasn't for him stabbing him like that, Blackbeard wouldn't have did what he did on Marineford. Whitebeard shutting it down.
But
Yeah.
think about it, though. He already had that little bias where it's like, you the only one I'll never call son. Like, you feel me?
so this is
That was
what
gonna
hindsight
happen.
does for us, right? Hindsight gives us all the information we didn't have in the midst of the action. Whitebeard's intention was to go to Marineford and die. He had no intention of surviving that battle. His whole goal was to free his son, his homie son, his son literally, because that's the respect they got. You know what I'm saying? You raise him up and join the crew. But bro, Gold Roger was his man. I'm not gonna let your son be publicly executed when he's in the same boat as Roger, essentially. You see what I'm saying?
Okay.
So the whole point was to free Ace by any means.
All I'm saying is the only fight he's been in control of was that one.
I hear you.
That's the only
Well,
fight.
with
Hold
Ace.
on, we only know about 2 fights.
But Ace,
He scarred Shanks, who we've seen nobody else even touch, and he literally beat up Ace. What's the third?
Ace,
Oh, Magellan.
Law.
My fault. Magellan.
that's
So
4
it's 4,
fights
it's
then.
4.
4.
In only one of those fights did he not very clearly have the upper hand because Shanks left with a battle scar that Blackbeard doesn't have. You don't hear Blackbeard talk about man, Shanks.
Yeah, we don't know what happened in that fight, so I don't count that fight. I'm talking
Right.
about
Bro.
Marineford.
I mean, I feel you,
Marineford-
I
I'm
feel
talking about
you.
Marineford.
Like, we just know he got a
Ace,
scar. That's like,
Magellan, and Law. That's
I'm
4.
just saying, a feat's a feat. You're powerful enough to scar Shanks. And that was enough for Shanks to go to your former captain and tell him about why we should leave him alone. Let's not forget the point of the whole meeting. It wasn't, oh, let's go take him out. Hey, how about we leave him alone? How about we stop trying to hunt him down? Banter, he's talking to the most powerful person on earth, literally speaking. He's sitting across from the most powerful man on earth telling him, hey, how about we just leave this person alone? And the most powerful man on earth had declared, we take him out. And Shanks went out of his way to let him know to leave him alone.
No, Whitebeard.
He's dangerous.
No, Whitebeard wasn't really trying to hunt him down.
No, it was
Ace.
Ace.
It was
And
Ace.
Ace was just like, I mean, Whitebeard was just, I'm gonna just let him
you
do
can't
it.
tell him no. You can't tell him he's wrong. That's what Whitebeard was on.
But I'm saying, though, Whitebeard had no intention of stopping anybody from getting Blackbeard out of the way. If that's what we doing, that's what we doing.
And here's the thing. So we know they're showing
Shanks
that
went out of
Shanks.
his way to say, hey, please don't do that. Hey, please leave him alone. Why would an emperor be telling another emperor to leave a non-emperor alone if he's not literally as dangerous as advertised?
No, they're telling Shanks is telling him to leave him alone because Shanks knows a lot of stuff.
He know the same thing Whitebeard
He
does.
know-
'Cause
no,
Gold Roger
Shanks-
told Whitebeard the whole world history. So there's nothing that Whitebeard don't know that Shanks don't know.
But I'm saying Shanks knows what's going on, and he know that Blackbeard's gonna be a part of it, bro. So that's why he told him to leave him.
I feel you in that regard. But also, cause see, the way I see it is this. Like, Gold Roger told Whitebeard the history and everything, but Whitebeard and the rest of the people they got told they lack the context that somebody like Shanks probably has. Because like you saying, you might know what is to come, but I'm actually knowing the people. Like, you know how people always say like the Messiah's coming back? Yeah, well, I know it's Mark from Target over there. You don't know who it is, you just know it's coming. And I think that's the difference between Shanks and Whitebeard. And that's why, probably, like you said, he probably just knew. I mean, obviously, he's dangerous, but it was probably more about the fact that I'm aware that he's an actual, like, no matter what you do, you're not going to go against fate, pretty much. I think that was probably the main purpose, to be honest. Because now that I'm thinking about it, the way fate has been working in One Piece, you don't get to do certain stuff to certain people. Something will always get in your way. Some way, shape, form. There will be some form of miracle that just happens. And Blackbeard is the recipient of that many times.
But he also be the one to be like, I wasn't sure who it was gonna be, but I knew I just needed to be here. Like when it was Law, he didn't specifically say, "Oh yeah, Law, I knew it was gonna be
Blackbeard
you."
doesn't
He said,
know.
"Hey, I knew it was gonna be somebody that was gonna have to take this trail out, and I was gonna catch him. One of y'all had him."
Nah, facts,
Like, you feel
facts.
me?
That is true.
He just knows where to be, when to be there.
But yeah, bro, he is like Whitebeard with lacking the context. Like, you know what I'm saying? Well, I don't know though, because I'm pretty sure he. Well, no, because he
'Cause
would.
now we know more
No,
knowing
because
he's Rock's son.
he would have knew that Luffy was Joy Boy.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't know that. He had no idea. That was new news to him. So I think he's in the same boat as Whitebeard now, where again, you know the story, but a person like Shanks is knowing the actual real people who represent the characters of this story that are playing out. And I think that's what makes him so important and so vastly different from the rest of the people who hold the same type of knowledge. No cap.
It's a lot of interesting stuff, brother.
Yeah, absolutely. I gotta cut us off right there though. That's our time. Thanks again for tuning in to another episode of Ship Talk. If you enjoyed the episode, be sure to hit that like, subscribe button, and we'll see you guys again next week.